Ladies and gentlemen, life has a way of challenging us, sometimes more than we ever imagine. We face moments of hardship, disappointment, and yes, negative emotions. But here's the truth I want you to carry with you today. Negative emotions are not the end of your story. They do not define who you are, and they certainly do not have to control your future. We all face struggles. Whether it's heartbreak, failure, loss, or simply feeling overwhelmed, we've all been there. And yes, these emotions can feel like a heavy weight on our shoulders, pulling us down. But if we choose to focus on them, if we give them all our energy, they will continue to consume us. We become prisoners of our own feelings. But imagine, just imagine, if instead of dwelling on the negativity, we shift our focus. What if we start looking at every setback as a lesson, every challenge as an opportunity for growth? It's not about pretending the negative doesn't exist or that we don't feel it. It's about acknowledging it and then choosing to move forward. I'm here to tell you that your circumstances do not define you. Your emotions do not have to dictate your actions. Yes, it's okay to feel angry, sad, or scared. It's human. But what you do with those emotions, how you respond to them, is where your power lies. I've been in a place where life seemed unfair, where it felt like I had no control over the cards I had been dealt. But I learned through every tear, every hardship, that I could choose to rise above it. I could choose to turn my pain into purpose, my struggles into strength. And I want you to know you can do the same. When we focus on negative emotions, we give them space to grow. But when we focus on gratitude, on the blessings, no matter how small, we start to shift our perspective. Gratitude transforms pain. It lightens the load. It opens doors to new possibilities. Every time you feel the weight of negative emotions, take a deep breath and remember, you are not your struggles. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are a being of resilience, capable of navigating through storms and emerging stronger on the other side. So let's stop focusing on what went wrong. Let's stop allowing ourselves to be defined by negativity. Instead, let's focus on the possibilities ahead, on the beauty that still exists, even in the midst of the storm. Let's focus on hope, on healing, on the power we have within us to create the life we deserve. Remember, the storm doesn't last forever. Neither do the negative emotions. You have the strength to ride through it and come out the other side, not just surviving, but thriving. So today I challenge you, stop focusing on the negative and start focusing on the positive within you. You are capable, you are strong, and you are worthy of every beautiful moment that lies ahead. Negative emotions are a natural part of the human experience. We all encounter them at different points in our lives. Anger, sadness, fear, frustration, and anxiety are just a few examples. These emotions, while they may feel overwhelming or all-consuming in the moment, do not define us. It is important to understand that emotions, whether positive or negative, are transient. They come and go, just like the weather. What matters is how we relate to them, and most importantly, how we allow them to shape our identity and actions. When we face negative emotions, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that they are an intrinsic part of who we are. We might tell ourselves, I'm angry or I am depressed, as though the emotion has become our entire being. This can create a dangerous cycle. When we believe that we are defined by our emotions, we start to associate ourselves with them. This identification becomes a barrier to our healing and growth. But here's the truth. Emotions are not who we are. They're just a part of our experience. Consider the way we might label ourselves in times of difficulty. I'm such a failure. I'm always anxious. Or I'll never be happy. In these moments, we have allowed the emotion to dominate our sense of self-worth. But these labels are not accurate representations of who we are as individuals. A failure is not a person. It's an experience or a moment in time. Anxiety is not a person. It's a reaction to certain circumstances. What we need to remember is that emotions, both positive and negative, are temporary responses to our environment and experiences. They are fleeting, not fixed, and certainly not permanent. One of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves is to disassociate from negative emotions. Instead of saying, I am angry, we can say, I am experiencing anger right now. This simple shift in language removes the identification with the emotion and helps us to see it as something we are experiencing rather than something we are. It creates a healthy distance between us and the emotion, allowing us to recognize that it is just a part of our current experience and not our permanent state of being. This perspective is liberating because it allows us to acknowledge our emotions without allowing them to control us. It allows us to see that emotions are just signals pointing us towards something we might need to pay attention to, whether it's a need for self-care, a desire for change, or a deeper understanding of ourselves. They are not signs of weakness or failure. They are simply parts of the human experience. And while they may feel intense, they do not last forever. Time, awareness, and healthy coping mechanisms can help us process them and let them go. The problem arises when we allow these negative emotions to linger for too long or when we continue to identify with them. The more we ruminate on negative emotions, the more we reinforce the idea that they are an essential part of who we are. This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, if we continually tell ourselves that we are failures because of a setback, we start to internalize that belief, which leads to a lack of motivation, self-doubt, and further feelings of inadequacy. On the other hand, if we can recognize that failure is just a temporary experience, one that we can learn from, we allow ourselves the space to move forward and grow. One of the key ways to stop focusing on negative emotions is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of staying present in the moment and observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. Instead of reacting impulsively to negative emotions, mindfulness allows us to pause, take a step back, and observe what we're experiencing. In this space of awareness, we can gain clarity about the emotion and understand its root cause. Is it a fear of failure, a need for approval, a past trauma that is being triggered? When we understand the underlying cause of the emotion, we can begin to process it more effectively and let it go. Another important aspect of disassociating from negative emotions is learning to challenge our thought patterns. Often, negative emotions are fueled by distorted or unhelpful thinking. For example, when we're feeling anxious, we might catastrophize and think that something terrible will happen, even if there's no evidence to support that. Similarly, when we're feeling angry, we might blame others for how we feel without considering our own role in the situation. These thought patterns can reinforce negative emotions and make them feel more intense. But by challenging these thoughts, asking ourselves whether they are based on facts, whether they are helpful, or whether there's another way to look at the situation, we can begin to change how we relate to our emotions. It's also important to recognize that negative emotions often arise from unmet needs. For example, if we feel frustrated, it might be because we have a need for recognition or appreciation that is not being met. If we feel angry, it might be because we feel disrespected or unheard. By identifying these unmet needs, we can take steps to address them in a healthy way. This might mean setting boundaries, communicating more effectively, or seeking support from others. When we understand that negative emotions are often signals that something needs to be addressed, we can move away from the idea that we are helpless victims of our feelings and instead take proactive steps toward resolving the underlying issues. One of the most empowering things we can do is to cultivate self-compassion during times of emotional difficulty. Negative emotions often arise when we are hard on ourselves, when we feel we are not measuring up to our own standards or the expectations of others. But when we approach ourselves with kindness and understanding, we reduce the power of these emotions. Instead of berating ourselves for feeling angry or sad, we can can acknowledge that it's okay to have these emotions and that they do not make us weak or flawed. Self-compassion allows us to accept ourselves fully, emotions and all, without judgment. This acceptance creates the emotional space we need to move beyond the negative emotions and heal. It's also crucial to remember that negative emotions can serve a purpose. They are not inherently bad. They can be informative and helpful in guiding us toward the changes we need to make. Anger, for instance, can be a powerful motivator for social change or personal growth. Sadness can deepen our empathy and understanding of others. Fear can encourage us to take precautions or prepare for challenges. The key is not to let these emotions consume us, but to use them as tools for positive transformation. When we stop focusing on negative emotions, we free ourselves to embrace a more balanced and holistic view of life. Life is a mix of highs and lows, joy and pain, success and failure. If we only focus on the negative, we miss out on the full spectrum of human experience. By accepting negative emotions without identifying with them, we create the space to experience the full richness of life, both the beauty and the pain. We learn that we can hold space for both emotions and experiences without being overwhelmed by any single one. The idea that we are not defined by our negative emotions is a powerful one. It empowers us to take control of our emotional well-being and to navigate life with resilience. We are not victims of our feelings. We are the creators of our responses. Negative emotions are inevitable, but how we choose to relate to them is entirely up to us. We can let them shape our identity, or we can choose to see them as temporary visitors, here to teach us something, but not to stay forever. The more we practice disassociating from negative emotions and focusing on the positive aspects of life, the more we begin to see that our true essence is not defined by our struggles, but by our capacity to rise above them and keep moving forward. Every setback is an opportunity for growth. At first, this might sound counterintuitive, especially when we are in the midst of experiencing hardship or failure. During such times, it's natural to feel disheartened, frustrated, or even defeated. The immediate reaction may be to see setbacks as insurmountable obstacles, things that prevent us from moving forward and achieving our goals. However, if we shift our perspective, we can begin to see setbacks not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones toward personal growth and success. When we encounter failure or setbacks, it's easy to let the experience define us. We might ask ourselves, why did this happen to me? Or what went wrong? These questions often arise from the natural human desire to understand and make sense of our experiences. However, the more we dwell on what went wrong, the more we focus on the negative aspect of the situation, which can prevent us from finding a way forward. Instead of focusing on what we cannot change, we can focus on what we can learn from the situation. Setbacks offer us a unique opportunity to pause and reassess our strategies, goals, and actions. Often we become so focused on achieving a particular outcome that we lose sight of the process. When we experience a setback, it forces us to reflect on our journey so far. We can ask ourselves, what worked well? What could have been done differently? What do I need to change in my approach going forward? These reflections are crucial because they allow us to adjust our mindset and our actions to improve the next time around. Every setback contains a lesson, and it is within that lesson that we find the opportunity for growth. Perhaps it's a lesson about patience, perseverance, or the importance of resilience. Maybe it's a lesson about humility, learning that we are not always in control and that sometimes things don't go according to plan. Maybe we learn to ask for help, to reach out for support, or to be more compassionate with ourselves during difficult times. The key is recognizing that failure is not a reflection of who we are as people, but a part of the process of becoming better versions of ourselves. In addition to personal reflection, setbacks often teach us valuable lessons about others. When we experience difficulty, we see who is truly there for us. who supports us, and who offers guidance. Setbacks have a way of revealing the strength of our relationships. It's often in the moments of hardship that we realize how much we rely on the people around us and how much they rely on us. This sense of connection can be a powerful motivator, reminding us that we are not alone on our journey. Even when we face failure, there are others who can offer support, advice, and encouragement. Setbacks provide us with the opportunity to build resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back after adversity, to keep going even when things seem difficult. It's a muscle that grows stronger each time we face challenges. When we experience setbacks, we are given the chance to practice resilience, to learn how to face adversity with strength and grace. This resilience doesn't come from avoiding setbacks, but from facing them head on, learning from them, and growing stronger as a result. Every time we overcome a setback, we build the mental and emotional strength necessary to face future challenges. Another important aspect of setbacks is that they help us to reassess our goals. Sometimes we set out to achieve something only to find that our original path was not the right one for us. Setbacks can act as a redirection, signaling that we need to adjust our goals, reevaluate our values, or change our course of action. This doesn't mean we have failed. Rather, it means we've gained clarity about what truly matters to us. Maybe the original goal was too narrow, too focused on external validation, or maybe it wasn't aligned with our deeper sense of purpose. A setback, in this case, can provide us with the space we need to reassess and realign ourselves with what truly serves us. Setbacks can also help us to develop problem-solving skills. When we face obstacles, we are forced to think creatively and adapt. We can no longer follow a set, predetermined path. Instead, we must be open to new solutions, new ways of thinking, and new approaches. This can spark innovation, as it forces us to think outside the box and find creative solutions to problems. The ability to problem solve is an essential skill in both personal and professional life, and setbacks offer a rich opportunity to develop and refine this skill. One of the most important aspects of setbacks is the opportunity they provide for self-compassion. When we fail, we often become our harshest critics. We blame ourselves, berate ourselves, and fall into the trap of negative self-talk. However, setbacks are a reminder that we are human and that failure is a part of the journey, not the end of it. Practicing self-compassion during setbacks is crucial for healing and moving forward. Instead of beating ourselves up, we can be kind to ourselves, understanding that mistakes are a part of life and that they don't define who we are. This self-compassion allows us to bounce back with renewed energy and determination, rather than being stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and negativity. In many ways, setbacks push us to grow beyond our comfort zones. Success often requires us to step into the unknown, to take risks, and to face uncertainty. Setbacks force us to confront our fears, to move beyond the familiar, and to explore new possibilities. While this can be uncomfortable, it's also where growth happens. When we allow ourselves to embrace discomfort and uncertainty, we open ourselves up to new experiences, new learning, and new opportunities that we might not have considered if we had stayed in our comfort zone. As we move through life, it's important to remember that setbacks are not permanent. They are temporary moments in time, challenges that we face and overcome. They do not define us, and they do not dictate our future. What defines us is how we respond to these challenges. Do we give up, or do we rise to the occasion? Do we learn from the experience, or do we dwell on the pain? Every setback is a choice, an opportunity to grow, to adapt, and to emerge stronger. It's in our response to setbacks that we discover our true potential and resilience. Your response to emotions is where your power lies. This concept is crucial to understanding how we interact with our feelings and how they in turn affect our lives. Emotions, by their very nature, are transient. They come and go, often without warning. What defines the quality of our life is not the emotions we experience, but how we choose to respond to them. How we react to our feelings shapes our relationships, decisions, and ultimately our future. When we understand that our response to emotions is a reflection of our power, we unlock a deeper sense of control and resilience in our lives. The first thing to acknowledge is that emotions are not inherently good or bad. They are simply signals that indicate our reaction to what is happening around us. Anger, sadness, fear, joy, each emotion has a purpose and can provide us with valuable information. Anger, for example, may signal that our boundaries have been crossed, while sadness may indicate that we've lost something important. Fear often serves to protect us from harm, and joy reflects a sense of alignment with our values or desires. The emotions themselves are neither positive nor negative. They simply reflect our internal world in response to external circumstances. What happens, however, is that we sometimes allow ourselves to become overwhelmed by these emotions. It's natural to feel intense emotions in certain situations, but it is how we respond to them that determines whether they will control us or we will control them. The true power lies in our ability to acknowledge and process our emotions without being controlled by them. When we are able to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, we regain a sense of agency over our lives. For example, consider the emotion of anger. It is a powerful emotion that can either be constructive or destructive, depending on how it is handled. When we respond to anger by lashing out, whether through words or actions, we often create more conflict, more negativity, and more harm. However, if we take a moment to reflect on why we are angry, what triggered the emotion, what need is not being met, or what boundary has been violated, we can channel that anger in a more productive direction. Perhaps we communicate more clearly, set a boundary, or take action to change a situation. The anger doesn't disappear, but the way we respond to it determines whether it fuels negativity or drives positive change. Similarly, sadness can be a powerful emotion, and while it might initially feel like a weight to carry, it also presents an opportunity to process loss, reevaluate priorities, or simply pause and reflect. If we respond to sadness by retreating into isolation or self-pity, we can spiral into a deeper sense of helplessness. However, if we allow ourselves to feel the sadness, accept it as part of the human experience, and then seek out ways to heal, whether through self-care, connection with others, or a renewed sense of purpose, we reclaim our power over that emotion. Sadness then becomes a catalyst for growth and healing, not a trap that keeps us stuck in despair. This ability to respond rather than react is also deeply connected to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as to recognize and influence the emotions of others. Those with high emotional intelligence don't suppress or ignore their emotions. Rather, they understand their emotions and use them to guide their behavior. They know when to act on an emotion and when to let it pass. They can recognize the triggers for their emotional responses and work through them without being overwhelmed. This is where true power lies, the ability to control our responses, to act with intention rather than being swept away by the current of our feelings. Another key aspect of emotional response is self-awareness. The more we understand ourselves and the emotions we experience, the more we can choose how to respond. Self-awareness involves noticing how we feel in different situations, identifying the thoughts or beliefs that underlie those emotions, and recognizing patterns in our emotional responses. By becoming more attuned to our emotional landscape, we can take proactive steps to manage our feelings before they dictate our actions. This awareness allows us to create space between the emotion and our response, giving us the opportunity to choose the most constructive way to act. The power of our response to emotions extends beyond just personal development. It influences how we relate to others. Our emotional responses shape our interactions, both with those closest to us and with people we encounter throughout our day. If we respond to emotions like frustration or fear by projecting those feelings onto others, we may create tension, conflict, or misunderstandings. However, if we take responsibility for our emotions and respond with clarity and intention, we can foster stronger, more positive relationships. By acknowledging our emotions without letting them control our interactions, we open the door to deeper understanding and connection. This ability to respond rather than react also fosters greater resilience. Life is unpredictable, and we all face setbacks, disappointments, and challenges. The key to bouncing back from these experiences is our ability to regulate our emotional responses. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to become overwhelmed with frustration, anger, or sadness. But when we learn to respond to these emotions with a calm and measured approach, we create the space to find solutions and move forward. Instead of letting emotions derail us, we use them as guides, learning from them and using that knowledge to strengthen our resolve. One powerful tool in managing our response to emotions is mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to be present in the moment, to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment, and to create space between stimulus and response. Gratitude transforms pain and shifts your perspective. This simple yet profound truth has the potential to change how we view challenges, hardships, and even the most difficult moments of our lives. It is easy to become consumed by negative emotions, such as anger, sadness, or frustration, especially when life feels overwhelming. However, by practicing gratitude, we begin to shift our focus from what we lack or what has gone wrong to what is still good, still valuable, and still worth appreciating. This shift in perspective doesn't mean we ignore our pain or pretend that everything is perfect. Rather, it means we choose to find a way to bring light into the darkness, to see the possibility for growth even in the face of adversity. At first, the concept of gratitude may seem too simplistic, almost too idealistic, especially during times of hardship, when life throws us curveballs, when we face loss, disappointment, or struggle. It can feel impossible to find anything to be grateful for. How can we feel thankful when we are hurting, when we are confronted by challenges that seem insurmountable? This is where the power of gratitude lies. It does not require us to deny our pain, but rather to acknowledge the good that exists alongside it. Gratitude allows us to hold space for both our pain and our blessings, for both our struggles and our strengths. When we make gratitude a part of our daily practice, we begin to train our minds to look for the positive even when life feels difficult. It's easy to focus on what's wrong, what's missing, or what's not going well in our lives. The human mind has a natural tendency to dwell on negative experiences and emotions, a survival mechanism that keeps us alert to danger or threats. However, this tendency can often lead to a cycle of negativity where we only see the bad and lose sight of the good. Gratitude helps to break this cycle by intentionally focusing on what we appreciate, no matter how small it may seem. This shift in focus doesn't diminish the reality of our pain, but it changes how we interact with it. Gratitude doesn't ask us to ignore the difficulties we face, but to balance them with an acknowledgement of the things we can be thankful for. Even in the hardest of times, there are moments of beauty, acts of kindness, or simple blessings that we can hold on to. Perhaps it's the support of a loved one, the comfort of a favorite song, or the beauty of a sunset. These small moments of gratitude can provide a sense of relief, helping us to regain perspective and reminding us that even in the darkest times, there is still light to be found. The transformative power of gratitude comes from its ability to shift our internal narrative. When we are caught in negative thinking patterns, we often begin to feel helpless or trapped by our circumstances. We focus on what we don't have, what we've lost, or what isn't working. But when we consciously choose to practice gratitude, we start to rewrite that narrative. We begin to see the richness in our lives, the things that are still worthy of appreciation, the opportunities for growth that emerge from hardship. This shift in perspective doesn't just feel good, it has tangible benefits for our mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude has numerous positive effects on our mental health. People who regularly practice gratitude experience lower levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. They report higher levels of happiness and satisfaction with their lives. This is because gratitude has the power to activate the brain's reward system, releasing feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. When we express gratitude, we literally rewire our brains to focus on the positive, which in turn helps to improve our overall mood and outlook on life. Gratitude shifts our mindset from scarcity to abundance, from focusing on what we lack to appreciating what we have. But gratitude is not only beneficial for our mental health, it also influences our relationships and the way we interact with others. When we practice gratitude, we become more mindful of the people around us and the positive qualities they bring to our lives. This can strengthen our bonds with others as we express appreciation for the kindness, love, and support we receive. Gratitude fosters a sense of connection and deepens our empathy. It encourages us to notice the good in others and to acknowledge the ways in which they contribute to our well-being. As we express gratitude, we invite more positivity and goodwill into our relationships, creating a cycle of appreciation that strengthens the fabric of our social connections. Gratitude has the power to transform our relationship with ourselves. When we cultivate gratitude, we begin to recognize our own worth and value. We become more compassionate with ourselves, acknowledging our strengths, resilience, and growth. Gratitude helps us to celebrate our progress, even in the midst of challenges. It allows us to see the effort we've put into overcoming obstacles and to appreciate the person we are becoming, even when we feel far from where we want to be. Rather than focusing on our flaws or shortcomings, gratitude helps us to embrace ourselves with kindness and acceptance. Another powerful aspect of gratitude is its ability to help us reframe challenges and setbacks. Life is not always smooth sailing, and we will all face difficulties at some point. However, when we approach these challenges with gratitude, we begin to see them as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable problems. Gratitude allows us to reframe our difficulties in a way that empowers us. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of feeling defeated, we can focus on how we can grow stronger or wiser from the experience. Gratitude opens the door to a mindset of possibility, where challenges are seen as stepping stones on our journey rather than obstacles blocking our path. Gratitude is a practice that transforms not only how we view the world, but also how we experience it. It helps us to embrace life in all its complexities, holding space for both the good and the bad. When we make gratitude a consistent part of our daily lives, we start to shift our energy, our mindset, and our relationships. We begin to see the world through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity, of appreciation rather than criticism. Gratitude doesn't just help us endure life's challenges, it helps us to thrive in the face of them, to find meaning and growth even in our pain. By practicing gratitude, we cultivate a sense of peace, resilience, and joy that carries us through even the most difficult moments. Change is the only constant in life, and our ability to embrace it determines the quality of our journey. We are often resistant to change, whether it comes in the form of a new job, a move to a different city, a shift in our personal relationships, or a change in the way we perceive the world. Change can feel uncomfortable, unsettling, and even terrifying. It challenges us to step outside our comfort zones, to question what we know, and to adapt to new circumstances. However, it is through embracing change that we grow, evolve, and uncover new possibilities that we would not have experienced if we remained stagnant. The fear of change is deeply rooted in our instinct for security and stability. As humans, we seek patterns, routines, and familiarity because they provide a sense of safety and predictability. We thrive in environments where we know what to expect, where we can anticipate the outcome of our actions, and where we feel in control. Change, however, disrupts this sense of security. It introduces uncertainty and unpredictability, and that can trigger feelings of anxiety or resistance. But the truth is, change is unavoidable. No matter how much we try to resist it, it will find its way into our lives. What matters is how we choose to respond to it. Instead of fearing change, we can choose to see it as an opportunity. Every time something changes in our lives, it creates a space for growth, for new experiences, and for new perspectives. Change often presents us with opportunities that we may not have considered before. It pushes us to expand our thinking, to explore new paths, and to question old habits or beliefs that may no longer serve us. When we open ourselves to change, we allow ourselves to move forward in ways we never imagined possible. We can embrace new challenges, discover new strengths, and redefine who we are. It's important to recognize that not all change is immediately comfortable or easy. There are moments when change brings pain, loss, or discomfort. Sometimes the changes we face feel overwhelming, and it's natural to grieve the loss of what we had. However, even in the midst of hardship, change can offer us valuable lessons. It teaches us resilience, patience, and adaptability. It helps us develop a greater sense of self-awareness as we learn to navigate unfamiliar terrain and to trust ourselves in uncertain situations. The more we face change, the more we build the capacity to cope with life's inevitable ups and downs. Furthermore, embracing change encourages us to let go of attachment. We often hold on tightly to things, people, or situations because we fear losing them. We become attached to a certain way of life or a particular outcome. And when change threatens that, we resist it with all our might. But attachment can limit our potential. It can keep us stuck in situations that no longer serve us or prevent us from embracing new opportunities. When we let go of attachment, we make room for new experiences, relationships, and growth. By releasing our grip on the familiar, we open ourselves to the unknown, to the possibility of something greater. The act of embracing change also involves cultivating a mindset of flexibility. Flexibility is the ability to adapt to new circumstances, to adjust our thinking and behavior in response to changing situations. Life is unpredictable, and the ability to be flexible in the face of uncertainty is one of the most important skills we can develop. Flexibility allows us to move with the flow of life rather than resisting it. It enables us to approach challenges with an open mind, to find creative solutions, and to navigate through the twists and turns of life with grace. A flexible mindset helps us see change not as a threat, but as a natural part of the process of growth and evolution. It's also important to remember that change doesn't always have to be dramatic or disruptive. Sometimes the most profound changes come from small shifts in our thinking, habits, or actions. These subtle changes, though they may not seem significant at first, can have a profound impact on our lives. Small changes in how we approach our work, how we interact with others, or how we take care of ourselves can lead to significant transformations over time. Change doesn't always require a radical overhaul. Often, it's the accumulation of small, intentional changes that leads to the most lasting and meaningful growth. In embracing change, we also learn to trust the process of life. Change is a natural part of the ebb and flow of existence. It is part of the cycle of growth, decay, and renewal that happens in nature, and it also happens in our lives. We can learn to trust that change, even when it is difficult or uncomfortable, is leading us to where we need to be. Every change, every transition is a step toward greater clarity, deeper wisdom, and more authentic self-expression. It may not always be clear in the moment why things are changing or what the outcome will be, but trust allows us to move forward with faith, knowing that each step is part of a larger unfolding. Embracing change requires a willingness to let go of control. Often we resist change because we feel the need to control the outcome, to ensure that things turn out exactly as we want them to. However, control is an illusion. Life is inherently unpredictable, and the more we try to control everything, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment and frustration. Letting go of the need to control outcomes frees us to experience life in its fullness. It allows us to be present with what is, rather than obsessing over what could be.